The DermaLo has three basic functions. Number one, it has the ThermoLo inside for sunspots, age spots, the cherry hemangiomas, melias, sebaceous hyperplasia, and of course skin tags. This section over here is electrolysis. It has presets that have small, medium, large, and then you can customize the treatment for your patient's needs. Then over here, you have your anaphoresis and cataphoresis, which offers closing and opening of the pores. Remember, cata with a C always means close. It has a very unique modality called the skin desensitizer, which allows the operator to use this air blowing sensation on the skin while treating so that the patient cannot feel what you're doing. It's a very unique and a very useful technology. The cata and anaphoresis modality allows you to force product into the skin to produce a hydrating of the skin, at the same time reducing fine lines and wrinkles and enlarged pore reduction. This can also be used on parts of the body such as the abdomen, the elbows and knees to tighten up skin in those areas. If you take a look, you can see this hand's been done and this hand has not been done, and there's a great difference in how the skin can look after a treatment. The skin looks more youthful, the pores are tighter, you can almost see through, it's a transparent and illuminating effect, whereas the hand that has not been treated looks more dull. So my goal is to give you some proper education. It's here to help you with your businesses so you feel better about it. But more than anything is to give back and make people feel good about themselves. Because when you look good, you feel good. And when your clients and your patients feel good, they look good. And so the whole idea, it goes hand in hand. And I know it's kind of selfish for us to think about beauty, but that's what we're all about. So before I do this, I'm going to do the PowerPoint presentation very quickly, and then I'll talk to you about the new equipment. So when I designed this in my head, I had a vision in my mind like this. It didn't come out that way. As you can see, the machine looks more like this. But that was my vision of it. I wanted it to be more modern, more a thin machine. I just couldn't make it that thin. That was in my mind what I wanted. I wanted to have a nice clean plate like that. But it evolved into this, which I'm very happy with. The DermaLo was supposed to be designed like this, and of course it has so many functions, it ended up like this. So you have to have a thought in your brain before you decide what you're going to do, and then let it evolve. Of course, this is a little bit about me. I told you I've been in the business for 40 years. I've treated over 20,000 patients. I've owned and operated over 30 clinics in the United States. I founded the world's first laser college, and I've trained over 4,500 medical professionals in the world and consulted with over 400 of them just with the ThermoLo alone. And of course, I founded the ThermoLo and the DermaLo machines. This is me, believe it or not. But what I want to show you is this next picture. As you can see, the skin and the face is pretty much the same. The hair is pretty much close to. But what I'm getting at here is that if you're in the business of skin, you need to look the part. I remember one day I was going into a hair removal clinic and the lady says, "Can I help you?" And I was like, oh my God, a full mustache. And I'm thinking, you're in the business, at least do something to make it look appeasable. So I want you to know that's my pride, is that my skin. Now you might say, well, your skin looks great, Lorenzo, it must be genetics. Well, look at my skin. It's sun damage, I have a lot of cherry hemangiomas. Whoever my parents were had good skin, but the sun damage can catch up with anybody no matter what kind of skin they have. So you can see my skin was pretty bad. So I had it treated with the ThermoLo. This is about 4 years ago. And you can see the healing process here. And of course, this is about a week later with all the spots. And you can see my face now. Of course, I've had several visits on my face, but your skin can be replenished back to youthful appearance. It just needs to be taken care of. And the key word is maintenance. It's, people always want to come in and go, here, I'm going to pay you a little bit of money and I want it done and I want to look great forever. The hands of the clock can be turned back, but they keep on ticking. So when you have to remember that when you have your clients or your patients come in, that, yeah, they can have this done, but they're going to want to go out and do gardening, they're going to golfing, they want to go hiking, ride the bikes. They're going to need to make sure that they keep the skin looking good. So this is the very first machine I made. It was sent to me, and I was in Salt Lake City. It came, and I couldn't believe it. I took a picture and sent it home to my wife, and so that's the picture of the very first machine. That's when I first saw it the very first time. I was very excited about it. So we do have some certificates for you, like I told you. I think it's good to have them on your wall. It's also good for your insurance company so that if you want to get insurance, you've seen that you've had proper training. And I can help you with that as well. So we can do spider veins, sun and age spots, unwanted hair, cherry hemangiomas, sebaceous hyperplasia, melia, acne, some melasmas. We'll talk about that. There's dermal melasma and there's epidermal. We'll talk about the differences. Skin tags and then frown lines. And I'll explain that to you. It's a new technique that I found that I can help get rid of some of the lines in your head up here. Why? People are getting Botox, but they have all the wrinkles, and when they get the Botox, they still have the lines from the years of them frowning. So I can go in and get rid of the little red lines that are in there. I can't get rid of wrinkles, but the Botox does that. I can make the skin appear and look better. So we're talking about a couple things I tell you is that there's times to use water and there's times not to use water. And people call me all the time and go, Lorenzo, the spider veins aren't going away. Well, they're putting water on the area and then they're tapping with the little ThermoLo machine and they're not getting rid of it. Why? Because the water is a conductor. And so if you're using a little tapping on there, it's going on the water and it's not going to the water in the capillary. Light and electricity follow the path of least resistance. So if you have water here and a capillary here, then the machine's going to tap on here, go out to the water here, and it's not going to go after the water that's in the capillary. So I always say, only time you don't use water are on spider veins, sebaceous hyperplasia, and melia. And why? They have water in the oil. So if you have someone that has a big sebaceous hyperplasia, it's like a little oil, like a little whitehead, you tap on it. And what you're trying to do is take all the water out of that. When all the water gets out of it, it takes that raw egg, like a raw egg in there, and it cooks it into a hard-boiled egg. And after you've tapped it, then you just take your tweezers or your comedone extractor, and it comes out like a little sesame seed. So the idea is to cook it. So you're just basically going around cooking the little sebaceous hyperplasia, leaving it alone, and then just popping it out, and it'll come out like a hard substance. Melias that have been in there for years, some people have them, and you've seen them inside here, you've seen them inside around the nose area, or even a cholesterol deposit. They're already hard. So then on those, you have to kind of go in a little bit and go around the edges, and then it'll pop itself out. Remember, what you're doing is cooking. You're doing a cooking action on that particular area. And we'll see some of those as we go. And this is what we do when we have brown spots and so forth and sunspots. I call it a hash mark. And so they thought I said hatch. And I said, no, we're not hatching. It's a hashtag. So we're scratching, but look what's inside there. Good skin. So you have good skin, good skin, good skin, good skin, good skin. So what you're doing is you're basically causing damage, but you're leaving good skin around it so that the injury can heal. At the same time, it'll reduce the brown age spot or sunspot. If you went and annihilated that spot, if I had a spot here and I just annihilated it and erased it like that, and I go, boy, I really got it, it's going to take forever for it to heal, and it could cause a hypopigmentation or even temporary hyperpigmentation, depending on the person's skin type. So to avoid that, you want to just do tic-tac-toe, or on a spot you can't do the tic-tac-toe, just poke it. So you're just giving a little damage, little damage, little damage, little damage, little damage, but you have good skin around there that will heal up. Remember, sometimes you have to treat several times. You just can't do it on one visit. And it says, I love to poke. I saw that and I thought, you guys might remember, poking would be the reds. So when you have reds, remember you poke reds, and every time you see a red capillary, so forth, you're going to poke it or tap it. So this is what you're looking at here. Spider veins, either telangiectatic veins, you're reducing them so they look better. This is a video we'll look at later, but you can see the broken capillaries in the nose here, and you can see immediately after treating, the capillaries are gone. Well, then people call me and say, Lorenzo, a person called me the next day, they're upset, they're still there. Well, here's my analogy, and you've all heard it that has a business, that has one of the machines. Think of a straw with Kool-Aid, red Kool-Aid in it, water and Kool-Aid. So I'm going to dehydrate that water, dehydrate the water, dehydrate, and what's going to happen is the water's going to be gone, but the stain of the Kool-Aid remains. So what's going to happen on this, those are going to appear the next day like capillaries, but they're just dried up iron oxide, because the water is now out of the blood, it's left iron oxide. When that happens, the body will exfoliate that over the next day or two. It's very, very important that they don't scratch. Now, who doesn't scratch? Or who does pick? Women. Sorry. But my wife picks on everything, and if she doesn't have anything to pick on herself, she starts picking on me. So I want you to know that you have to let them know that, because if you leave it alone, it will dry up, it'll flake off and come off. But people want to go home and they tendency want to mark that off. And they always tell you, oh, it accidentally fell off. But hopefully that's not going to be a problem. I just don't want them to go pick because their fingernails are dirty. It needs to be done in a sterile environment if they're going to do that. Again, little broken capillaries here. You can see how nice they look immediately after. I love this picture. There's Michael Bono, a friend of mine for 40 years, and you can see how this looks immediately after. So a person's alluding when they get home that, man, this is wonderful. And the next day, it crusts everywhere, and then we go, oh God, what did you do to me? So you need to do in the consultation, explain to them that it's a process. So we're going to do it today. You're going to love me when you walk out. Tomorrow morning, you're not going to love me so much. In a couple of days, you're going to love me back again. Okay, so make sure you tell that them in the consultation. So it says 80 million people suffer from spider veins, but remember, we're only doing little tiny capillaries. We're not doing the thick leg veins. I had an ad one time, and I think George has done it, and he put out there capillaries, small capillaries, and people come in and they pull up their leg, and it's got the big old varicose vein sticking out that far out of their leg, and you can see the blood running through it, and they're going, can you do this? No, that's not it. Well, you have to explain to them just a small capillary. And the right word is telangiectatic veins or telangiectatic veins, but that's a hard word to remember. But so you might want to say minute spider veins or tiny spider veins. And so one thing I've also learned when people call me on the phone and they say I have a spider vein I want removed, I tell them to come in. I don't say, well, how big is it on the phone, or tell me how it looks, and send me. I don't do that. The reason for that is I want to see them, because what they think is small might not be small, or it might be that it's smaller than you think. And so also, if I'm like George, I have 10 other procedures I can do. So when they get here, I might say, oh, by the way, I see you have a cherry hemangioma right here. God, I know you could do that. That thing has been bothering me for 10 years. Then you have it in. If you never have them come in, you've lost that customer forever. They call someone else, and that person has that customer. It's very important not to do a consultation on the phone. It's very important for you to say you're busy, because people like people that are busy, and I can give you a free consultation. I'm pretend like it's hard to find them a time to come in. I read all that paper, like you're going to try to find a time for them, and then, oh, I did have something at 4 o'clock this afternoon. But you need to get them in. If you don't get them in, you've lost them. And what are we in business for? Why did you make an ad for? Why did you buy the machine for if you're not going to provide a service? Again, little spider veins like this on the cheek or under the eye. Could be fragile skin, high blood pressure, could be an injury. Different things can apply, but you see before and then immediately after. And then here's on the nose before and immediately after. Now, my mother, when she blew her nose, she used a whole Kleenex, and I know it disappeared for a little while, and then it came back. I think she just busted blood vessels every time. Plus, back in the day when ladies wore makeup, it took them a half an hour to get all that. I call it face. It was like silly putty, when they smile and it kind of stays for a while, and then it kind of fades out. Well, it took her about a half hour to get that off on her face at night. So she would break capillaries every day trying to get that makeup off. And so it's important that you educate that person. Maybe is there a better way? Maybe you have product you can help them with so they don't have to break their face up, getting their makeup off and on. Maybe a different line of makeup would be something that you could recommend. Again, this lady here poked herself. She said she was driving and she was tweezing her eyebrows, and then she stopped, and then the tweezer went in here. Well, she had a little mark. So it could come from an injury. I know this sounds terrible, but I used to work and donate my time to the Battered Women's Society because I could see where fist marks were on ladies' faces, and you could almost see where the knuckles were, and I would go and get rid of those little broken capillaries, because it was always a reminder for that lady looking in the mirror of when she had gotten hit. Now, it's not always that. There's a lady in here that had a airbag hit her in a car accident, and it broke all the capillaries in her nose as well. So don't always speculate someone comes in that they got beat up. They could have fallen off a horse 8 times. No, I'm just joking. So don't always speculate that. Let's go on a little further here. Now, this is a very delicate area. I use a little topical anesthetic in here, but make sure it's wiped off. The reason you don't put it on and leave it on for capillaries is because we want to get rid of the little red blood vessel there. And if you have that topical on, again, the electricity of the current is going to go after the topical, and it's not going to go after the blood vessel. And the person's going to say, well, it's not working, or the machine's not working. This needs to be completely clean. And now I know you don't like to use alcohol, so maybe you don't mind use sea breeze, maybe some Bactine, witch hazel. There are some other products out there that work really good as an astringent to clean it off. But when you're doing sunspots and H-spots, when we get there, you can leave the topical right on and use that as your conductor, because now we're trying to just cook the brown on the top layer of skin. We're not trying to go below the skin to the capillaries that are below it. So here's a good example, keeping it clean. Immediately after, you can see how nice that looks. I love doing these because they do make a big difference on a person's looks. This is the girl with the airbag, the airbag broke on her face, and you can see how nice that looks later on. This is my ankle. I don't like to wear socks, and I think those veins make you look old, so I would go in and I do my own little ankles. I cried a little bit. Men aren't very good patients, as we all know. And working on yourself is worse, I think. And then, of course, this is a little thing I did with a plastic surgeon. a plastic surgeon was using lasers, and laser would work on this. But if you didn't have a laser, and you didn't have an IPL, a green IPL, and you didn't have a green laser to go after this red, then this would be another option for you. But for me, I always had lasers available that I could use them. But if you don't have it, then of course the ThermoLo would be an answer. One thing about this patient here, people that are on aspirin and on blood thinners, be very careful, because once they start bleeding, it's very difficult to stop the bleeding. So I would probably suggest that you wouldn't treat someone like that. I know this guy really wanted it done, but I remember mopping up a lot of blood with a gloved hand and gauze just because he wanted it done, and it wasn't worth it. But he wanted it, and I told myself afterwards I should have just stood strong and said no. So there's times when you need to say no. There's times when people believe in you and you think, well, I'm going to help them out, but you have to not do that. We're all givers. Most of us here are givers. Estheticians and medical professionals and nurses and doctors are all givers. And sometimes when you give, sometimes you don't know when to say no. You need to learn when to say that I can't do that. Here's a good example of some broken capillaries, and you can see how those have been treated. So I went one step further on this picture, and I have a camera that I use that takes pictures of the veins. And you can see I started here and tapped. Well, you can tap this way and go down fine to the thick. You can see I just tapped, and those are probably all the taps I did, and you can see how nice that looks. Now, you'll be able to see some of those today when we are treating different people. Now, this is a bigger purplish blue vein, and I don't recommend you do them, but as you get better, you can do that. Now, here's the thing. Here's the capillary. Sometimes that little poke is not going to be enough. Sometimes you have to poke 3 or 4 times and work your way down. So don't go down the middle. Get it, complete it, and blanch it out as you go. And as you got down here, you'll see it turns white, and that's how it looks afterwards. It looks pretty good, and that may need several visits. A purple or green vein sometimes on the face may need several visits. A lot of ladies get them right here. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're in this area. So cherry hemangiomas, we'll talk about that real quick. If one person has one, they usually have 100. You might think, oh, I just have this one cherry, and then pretty soon they're going, okay, and then you're like connecting the dots, you know, and then your eyes go ka-ching. And of course, here's one ladies that only have one. They're benign. They're just they're nothing cancerous, so they can be treated. One thing I'd like to tell you is that if you look under those with a microscope, there's a little aura around it, or a little halo around it. You want to make sure that you go out and get those little blushings and then work your way in. So I'll show you that in just a little bit, how we work on that. Also, unless you're a nurse or you have a medical director, do not try to do the keratosis. I have a lot of people have actinic keratosis, different things. Some things, and moles, they need to be diagnosed. Anything that has to be diagnosed as an esthetician, you shouldn't do. You should send that out to a dermatologist or a doctor. Unless you have a medical director, like Carmen has one, you have one, George has one, and so they can ask their medical director, is it all right if I treat that? So here's how it might, a 3-step process. It may not be just one time. It may get better, and then smaller, and then of course the last time it was gone. So don't think that you have to do it all in one treatment. So again, it's a process, a stage 1 through stage 4. I did this one night thinking that you get these little spots out here and work your way in, but I decided to make it a little bit differently. So I would think you should just do pokes. I think I've missed this slide. I want you to poke instead of just, people think you're dragging the needle. You're not dragging it. You're poking and going in a spiral fashion. I have another slide I think I forgot to put in here, but it shows that you're tapping around and you're not. So sometimes people see this, they go, oh, Lorenzo said just go like this, and then they're just searing it. No, you want to tap the blood vessels. And of course, this is one before and how it looks afterwards. Let's go on here. Sunspots, I love them because they're going to come back to you another year or two, and they're going to have them again. Why? Because it's our habit. You go out in the sun, and you get rid of them, and the next thing you know, you're back out. I had a guy, I did all of his back, shoulders. I loved it. I was in the park. I was driving by. He's playing volleyball. I had his shirt off. I go, yes. No, because he's going to be coming back to me again. I guess dark spots like this are easily to get rid of. This young lady had lots of brown hair, and you can see, I wish I had gotten a better after picture. And that's something that you have to start thinking about. You take before and after pictures, but this after picture, she looks like she's all dark right here. It's just because now her cheekbone's a little more defined and I have more shadow. So I should have gotten a better picture, and you learn to take the picture the same way each time. So you have a light in your room, keep the light on, then use all your pictures with the light on. If you don't want to use the light, take the light off. So I want you to understand it's really important to take the picture with the same camera and the same lighting. Now this was given to me by Debbie Cadell out in Bellevue, Washington, and she has a medical director. So this is like a little keratosis of some sort. You can see before and you can see after. And I did the little hatch mark with the little filament. Use a little water, or you can use topical anesthetic, as long as there's a conductor there. And you can see how nice that came out. And that was one treatment, and you see it's a very good picture of before and after. Again, before and after. You can do that little hatch mark, hashtag, and you can see how nice that looks. Nice thing about these machines, they're colorblind. You don't have to worry about if they're skin type 5, 6, 4, 2, albino. Doesn't really matter. So sebaceous hyperplasia, everybody talks about these, and there's something that you get them, they're difficult to get out because if you try to extract them, they're like soup. So what you're doing again is you're tapping on them, and when you tap on them, they cook, and when they cook, then they come out like a little pellet or like a little sesame seed. Now, some of the people I know will tap them all, and then they'll go ahead and do their regular treatment, whether it's erbium YAG, or whether it's a fractional CO2, or whether you're doing a peel, TCA, chemical peel of some sort. Some people leave them, and then when they do that, they come out with that in the process of doing the facial peel. I personally like to take them out. It's just me because I enjoy watching them come out. Sorry, I'm sick. Yeah, they'll come out by themselves. They will come out. But reason I don't do that because I know women are pickers, and I know as soon as they get in their car, they're going to go, hey, these things pop right out. And then they're doing it themselves. So I'm kind of like to do it myself. But it's up to your own preference whether you want to take them out or not. And you can see it gets hard after you've tapped it. Now, people say, what's that white? Lorenzo makes a big production of everything. So when you come in, I charge a lot. And I've always been known to charge a lot when I did my treatments. So what I would do is I would go in, I'd take the pictures, I would circle all their spots, you know, and then I'd go and do them and then take a picture again. So they felt like, wow, he's really thorough. He got all those spots. And so one day I had a lady come in and she had circled them for me. She comes in and I go, what happened? She had circled them all with red pen. She circled all the spots she wanted me to do on her face. She figured she's just helping me out. You know? This is a very severe case of melia, but we do see melia a lot. And there's another procedure, and some of you might know the name of this, medical professionals, and it's on the shaft of the penis, and women sometimes get it on the labia, and they have those little pustules. I have people come in that want those removed as well. But I want you to know when you're treating down in the lower regions, areas that are going to get moist and wet, you want to make sure they keep it as dry as possible, because once you've opened a little wound there, you don't want any infection to get in there. So that's one thing I'll warn you about when you're working on areas that are damp or moist, or even under the breast area. You want to make sure that gets aired out. So I use a thing called Caladril, and I'll show it to you in there. And the Caladril dries things out very quickly, and you can put it on, and it dries out an area so that you can not have to worry about that. And then this is how nice they come out. That's the big part that I like when I pop it out. And then of course you want to show it off, and you want to throw it against the wall so it sticks, and you feel really proud of yourself. These are the tweezers I give to you when you buy the machine, because I believe in these little diamond tips. They work very well. And people say, well, gee, Lorenzo gave me a pair of tweezers. I'm whoopie-doo. I give them to you for a reason, because they really do work better than trying to poke into the skin and digging something out. You go around the top and just scratch it, and the melia just pop right out. Sebaceous hyperplasia just pop out. You don't have to go in and dig. You just scratch the surface with it, and it's rough enough where they just pop out. Active and active acne, see the red here? We're tapping that. When we tap it, we're getting rid of the red. We're not getting rid of the acne, we're just getting rid of the acne redness. So this is helping you get rid of the acne scars and marks, but they're still there. If you look very carefully, she still has the scarring, but the redness is gone. Remember this, reds and browns, when we're doing video, they absorb color. When you have them gone, light reflects. So you'll see some before and after pictures, and they say, Lorenzo, that's a different lighting. It's not. It's just that the light is not being absorbed. And once that's not being absorbed, you get more of illumination. You get more of a brilliance back. And it's really important to see that. Here's another one that has a little bit of acne, and you can see how nice that looks. Now, melasma, I'm going to talk to you about that. You might say, well, how do I know the difference? I don't know. But you can only get rid of epidermal melasma with this machine. And so what happens if someone has a little melasma, do a patch test about the size of a nickel or whatever, and do it somewhere where it's not going to be so obvious. You don't want to do it right in the middle of their forehead. But let's say you do a little spot and tell them to come back in about a month. If that spot looks lighter in a month, then you know you can do the treatment. Otherwise, it won't work. If you did lasers, I've used lasers, especially IPL, you can make melasma worse. So what happens then the body thinks there's a problem, it sends more melanin, and then it ends up more severe problems. So that's why I don't like using a laser. I'd rather use this if I can, do the patch test. Worst case scenario, it does nothing, Then you haven't hurt the patient, haven't changed them, and then, of course, you can go on with the treatment then. Now, I know if anyone comes like this, take a picture and send it to me. No, not really. But the thing is, people do get skin tags. Now, the reason I'm showing this picture, I had a lady just 3 days ago, and I showed this to you yesterday. She sent me this, Lorenzo, you need to help me out. Can I treat this? Well, I didn't know if she used a high-powered camera, if it's a little tiny thing and she blew it up, or if it's that big, you know? So I wrote her back. I said, I need to know how big it is. Put a dime or next to it or something next to it so I can see in relation to the dime how big it is. Which was, never mind, I already did it. so she sent me and asked me if I could do it. By the time I got back to her, she's already did it. So she must have been texting me while she's going like this. So anyway, I just want you to know, if you're going to ask me questions, kind of give me an idea or go back a little bit and take the picture of the person and then go in and show me where it's at. So skin tags are on the eyes, and people, can you do eyes? You can do them anywhere, but you might wait and do eyes on the eyelid or on the around the eyelash area when you're a little more experienced. But I want you to know it can be done. It's just a little piece of skin that's hanging there that can be treated. A little water, and then hold it with your tweezers and just tap lightly. And what you're doing is you're dehydrating all of the water out of that skin tag. So think of the skin tag as a grape, and by tapping it, you're turning it into a raisin. And once it becomes a raisin, it becomes hard. You leave it alone, it'll die. Or if you think you can get to it with a sterile pair of scissors, surgical scissors, you can go ahead and snip it. But a lot of times you can leave them alone and they'll fall off on their own. Of course, you can see how bad they can be, and then of course some people might just have one, and it just depends. Again, they're very hereditary, so if they have one, they probably have more, and they probably have relatives that have them. There's someone around. This is from Debbie Cadell also. She's used my machine for about 15 years, and you can see that she's got rid of them off of the eyelid there. And there's treated and then just snipped off afterwards. Now here's using ThermoLo and HydroLo, and we'll talk about HydroLo in a quick minute. But basically I went in and I tapped all the reds that are in here. So when you have a wrinkle, push it open, and you can see there's a red line in there. It's broken capillaries. Think of a canyon, and at the bottom of every canyon is usually what? A river. So what happens when you open it up? You just tap in there and you'll see it disappear. And when it disappears, then it's going to look bad though. And make sure that you understand when they go home, they're going to have lines everywhere you did this. But within a couple days, all those will peel off and it's going to look a lot better. Because once you get Botox, even if it goes up flat, you'll still see those lines if you don't get rid of them. And here's one here. You can see the line here, and you can see immediately after the treatment, it's gone. So people really get happy till the next day, and then wake up and they got these lines all over their face. Of course, hair removal is very difficult to do. It looks easy. It's not. It's the most difficult thing to do with it. And if you decide you want to do hair removal with it, we can talk. I know Amy does hair removal but she's been doing this for a long, long time. And then cholesterol deposits, you see people get these. Again, I tap on those. As I tap on them, they get cooked, and then I go ahead and use my little tweezers, and they fall right out. So here's a good example. I just tapped that one a couple times, and you can see it's starting to come out, and it all came out in a big old lump, and that's it. And she goes home, and she's done. And this is some things you can't do. Keloids, it's one thing I want you to explain. When someone keloids, do not treat them, because when you keloid, they just get worse and worse because the body thinks it needs to keep forming new skin. Now, you need to go to a doctor. A doctor can do the cortisone injections and all the things they need to do with that. I'm not a doctor, and I don't know if anybody else here is a doctor, but I just don't do them. It could make your life miserable trying to treat something like this. Okay, we saw that picture already. This is a good picture I want to show you. This has been done with ThermoLo, and it's been done with a fractional CO2 laser. So you can see how nice that looks. I always call it like doing the spots on the carpet, the wine stains, the pee stains with this, and then you're going through and then you clean the carpet. It's how nice it looks. But look at same camera, same area, same place I'm taking the picture, but look at the face, because now those spots aren't there, the face illuminates. And I can tell you that I've had thousands of pictures that show that when you get rid of brown spots and red, all of a sudden that face starts to gleam. And people go, what'd you do different? You did something different with your face. And then, of course, this is done with a erbium YAG and with the ThermoLo together. So you can use it as an adjunct to doing your facials. You can do a treatment you had. You can do the brown spots first and then do your peel at the same time. This is one of the most rewarding ones, because I know my wife, every time we get ready to go on our trip, she goes, please do my décolleté, because I said, well, didn't I do it 3 years ago? Yeah. Then she goes out, and we're in Hawaii, and guess what she's doing? It's a plate out there, and it's getting baked on again, and I can see her sizzling, and I go, baby, that's for, put some sunblock. Oh, I got a little sunblock. But of course, she goes swimming, the sunblock's off. Next thing, she goes home, she got the brown spots again. So I'm constantly working on my wife and her family, and I'm not complaining. 32 years of doing this, and look how happy I am. But I go to Idaho, and my little niece runs out to the truck, and she goes, she says, "Did he bring the machine?" He brought the machine, and she's yelling, "He brought the machine!" So everybody's barbecuing, everybody's drinking beer, and I'm in there with a light on my head, it's frying off Aunt Edith's skin tag, and it looks like it's trying to fight the needle. And you all seen these before, and this is very nice to do as an adjunct to facials or just getting rid of the brown spot. So you're going to see a picture here in a minute. Again, my assistant, she shows electrode. We put a little baby wipe on there. It's wet. By the way, this is probably too much baby wipe. You want it as thin as possible. Maybe a little paper towel. It's wet, but it needs to be wet, and they need to hold it. So if you're working on a face, you can put that little electrode right behind here, so the current goes right to here. If you're working on something on the bikini line or doing hair removal, put it under the cheek. The current goes from here to here. You don't have to have the current go all the way back to the arm, back to the machine. You can move that electrode anywhere you'd like. That's why I designed the electrode a little smaller, so that you could hide it different places. It used to be have a real big electrode. This way it can be hidden somewhere and touching a person's skin without being a real large. The old ones were really pretty large. And this is called a spear. We designed it so you can work under the eyes, and you can do a spear right under the eyes here. You can do the orbital rim up here, but do not go across the eyelid. So you can go across here, into here, and move upward, move out and up. And on the neck, I tell people to put the gel on and move upwards this way, up and go across this jawline here as you go, and everything goes up and out. So you're going to see a remarkable picture here. This is my wife. I just did this about 4 days ago, because I said I need a picture before and after. And this is her eye. You can see the lines here, and this is 5 minutes of treatment with that on her eye. Isn't that a good picture? And this is just a simple 5-minute treatment. This is not something that you didn't have to go and get any surgery or anything else. Now, I call it the Cinderella lift, because about 2 weeks later, around midnight, the wrinkle comes back. So, in fact, I had a girl in Wyoming, and she bought the DermaLo, and she called me and said, "Lorenzo, how do you do that Cinderella lift?" And I forgot I said Cinderella lift. I go, "Cinderella lift? I've heard of Madonna." Oh, Cinderella lift. Yeah. But isn't that, see how the eye looks more open? Now, I didn't really do a lot up in this area. I was more concerned down in this area, but you can definitely see a huge difference in 5 minutes. And what I do is I'll do half of a face, let them look in the mirror, have them sit up though, and look in the mirror, and then they go, "Wow," and then they go ahead and do it. Now you have someone who's going to come back every 2 weeks, and after you do that a couple times, you can go every month, and pretty soon you can let them go for 6 weeks. But you need to kind of get them in for every week for a little bit, and then every 2 weeks, and get it to a point where you're doing this once a month or once every 2 months. Because your skin does get a memory, and after you do that for a little bit, it does stay a little longer. So this is the one side I did before and not this side, just to show you right after the treatment. This is immediately after treatment. I didn't like this picture because I didn't take a very good focus picture, but you can definitely see the difference in the wrinkles under the eye. That's not a marketing picture. This one would be a marketing picture.